SmarkCast, take 2. Hopefully my power won't go out this time. It's been storming here in Tennessee for a while, so my power went out. I was more than halfway done with the last episode, which really sucks because that's like 20 minutes down the drain. But either way, I'm back on. I'm going to try to take it from the top again with the new SmarkCast. It's going to be the Raw review. First off, I wanted a little news that happened before Raw. Santino retired, which I'm okay with. If I could find some confetti in this house, I would throw it up and say, yay! Because I've hated Santino for about 5 years now. He had one good showing at Elimination Chamber like 3 years ago, and then he's just been a joke and completely worthless. The bad thing about him retiring, I mean, the good thing is we don't have to suffer through any more of his dumb skits anymore. The bad thing is WWE has a hard-on for comedic roles. They have to have someone who can do a comedic role. To me, just give it to Stardust and Goldust, because at least they can be entertaining and comedic, you know? And they give them a shot to do so. But that's not what's going to happen. I have a feeling that the comedic role will go to Damien Sandow, which means he goes further down the ladder. This is a guy who can be funny, and he can be entertaining. He can put on a good match, but WWE doesn't want to give him that shot. And I just have this feeling that we are going to be seeing more and more of this Damien Sandow pretty much ripping off Charlie Haas's persona from a few years ago when he would impersonate the other wrestlers. Hopefully, hopefully WWE sees the light in this guy and gives him a shot, because it's getting ridiculous. I'm getting really tired of watching one of my favorite guys belittle himself every week. That's not to say that they're burying him, because they're not burying Damien Sandow. They are giving him TV time, which if they were burying somebody, they would not give them TV time every week on Raw. So, but either way, the whole point, Santino retired. Good. Now, if we could just get Alicia Fox and Cameron to retire, we might be on our way. Okay, anyway, Raw. I'll give my quick review of Raw first before I get into the main points of it. I loved this Raw. I thought it was great. Wouldn't say it's one of the best Raws of all time, but it was still really good. I'm in the minority in my thought that I thought it was better than last week's episode. I thought it was much better than last week's episode. Most of these people that are reviewing it online are saying, no, last week's was better, which I don't see the logic in saying that last week's was better, because last week had 1 hour of good stuff, where this week had 3. Last week, the first 2 hours of the show, I would have rather watched paint dry. I would have rather watched grass grow. I mean, it was awful. I still remember last week, I was an hour and a half into the show, and I looked at my clock, and it was only 9:30. And it blew my mind. I thought I'd been watching Raw. I thought, I was like, is that the finale? Man, we still have an hour and a half. This is horrible. I felt like I was watching for 4 straight hours. And then the last hour happened when Jericho came back. Everyone came back, and all of those returns and twists, AJ coming back and all that, suddenly made everyone forget about the previous 2 hours. And it didn't make me forget, because just because, like, you bore me for 2 hours and then entertain me for an hour, I'm going to remember those previous 2 hours, because it makes me feel foolish that I have to sit through 2 hours of crap to get 1 hour of awesomeness. That's not how you do a television show. You need to really start giving us full-on shows and not just 1 hour and the rest is garbage. On the flip side, this week was not like that. This week was 3 hours of awesomeness. Yes, there were some segments and stuff that were garbage and stuff like that, but for the most part, I was entertained for 3 straight hours. And it was the exact opposite of last week, because I looked at the clock an hour and a half into the show, and I swear I'd only been watching for 15, 30 minutes, and I had been watching for an hour and a half, which is crazy, because it takes a lot for WWE to entertain me that much. And they did it last week, or this week, because they brought us great matches, they brought us good backstage segments, they brought us a good return. I mean, what more could you ask for? It was a great show, and I just don't see how people can think that last night's show was not as good as the previous week. That's just my rant on it. I mean, that's my opinion. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe that last hour was better than the entire 3 hours of this week, but I don't think so, because I would rather have a show filled with great matches than a show filled with returns and twists. When I watch wrestling, I want to see a match. I don't want to see, oh, here's Jericho coming back. I want to see Jericho come back and face someone. I don't want to see, oh yeah, he's back and he started a new feud. Okay, well, see you next week, Jericho. I don't want to see that. Bring him back. Bring him back in a match, you know? And, I mean, we got that with AJ, but it wasn't really a match. Either way, this week's Raw was much better. I'm going to go ahead and get some things out of the way before I get to the meat and potatoes. That's a southern saying right there. I'm going to do the meat and potatoes of the whole show. For one thing, one of the things that wasn't so great was the Bo Dallas versus El Torito thing. That was a throwaway. And I think all that is Bo Dallas getting cheap heat for beating up El Torito. Because Bo Dallas' character is very confusing. And I don't think the crowd gets it. They don't know whether to cheer or boo him, so they don't do anything. It's mostly cheers for what he gets. But I think that's because he's Bray Wyatt's brother. Either way. But it's, the problem is, he is a heel. But he does babyface things. He raises people's hands. He congratulates them. He gives them pep talks. But what people don't really see is the pep talks he gives are very condescending. And the illusion that he is liked by everyone and that he is better than everyone is a very heel thing to do, but people aren't understanding that. So what do? You give him cheap heat. You have him beat up El Torito. You have him be a bully. Either way, So, it was a very throwaway segment. I feel bad because I actually like Bo Dallas. But either way, that one's out of the way. The other one was the one hand tied. I just knocked something over. One hand tied behind your back Alicia Fox thing. I just want Alicia Fox to just go away. That's the thing. I don't want her to be around anymore. I want her to be released. I want her to go to Walmart and accidentally put a iPod or an iPad mini case in her purse and not pay for it and forget. I want her to be in a DUI. I want her to go away. She is not impressive in the least, and her character is annoying. The whole grabbing a Red Bull and pouring it on people and throwing a fit when she loses, it's dumb. Get rid of Alicia Fox. She gets on my nerves. The one thing she has is she's good looking, but I want someone who can entertain me, not every time they come out I roll my eyes and want to change the channel, because that's what I almost did last night. But it was just to further the storyline. There was a backstage segment with Fandango, which was kind of a throwaway thing, where he's hugging Layla. I'll get more into why he's in the backstage, but he's hugging Layla, and Summer Rae is watching. He's just staring at Summer Rae. This whole love triangle thing's kind of also getting on my nerves. I'm kind of hoping it leads to a Summer Rae face turn where she kind of joins up with Dolph Ziggler, because I think those two would do good together. I know people don't want Dolph Ziggler to have a valet, but I think it would be great because Dolph Ziggler's great, and Summer Rae is one of the most underrated wrestlers on the roster. So I would like to see that, but this is the whole Fandango thing. Plus, Fandango on commentary never needs to happen again. That was the creepiest thing I've ever heard, because it was whispery and silent and all. Ugh, it was wow, it was creepy. But you forget about that, man. That's going to give me nightmares. And finally, something that was not a throwaway segment, but was still kind of confusing, was the Funkadactyls versus what I'm going to call Paige. Paige and AJ Lee teamed up to face it, which Paige and AJ Lee teaming up pretty much is a collective IWC orgasm, because everyone wants to see these two team up because they are the two most popular females on the roster. Natalya is great, but she's not half as popular as Paige and AJ. So Paige versus the Funkadactyls. I thought when this was announced, I was like, all right, we're going to get a double turn. We're going to get Cameron turning heel and Paige turning heel, which should be pretty great. That's not what we got. We got Paige as a launching pad for the Funkadactyl split. Kind of weird. Cameron and Naomi lost, and they got into a big cat fight, while Paige and AJ raised each other's hand and congratulate, and they walked out. You know, I was kind of confused because we didn't even get like a little inkling or a little tease of what Paige and AJ are going to do. I was hoping that we'd get something like that because I want to see a feud between these two. So I was a little confused by how, you know, they acted together as two baby faces. You know, they worked things out. They're friends. But in the end, this could turn out to be something good because we could have a good face versus face run. However, Paige works better as a heel. Paige was great as a heel. The anti-diva, all of it. So I kind of want to see her turn heel and go against AJ, but I think it's probably a good choice in the end because a Paige turn on AJ would completely overshadow anything that the Funkadactyls did. So I think that's the end result here. So we'll have a Paige turn on AJ in a less important bout. So, but it was confusing, but I can see the reasoning behind it. So either way, let's go ahead and start off on the meat and potatoes of Raw, which was the opening. Reigns got to open Raw. That's basically like saying, here you go, man. Guess let's see what you can do. And it wasn't that great. He was very boring. It's not that he is a boring person. It's his talking style. Very monotone, very slow, and he likes to pause a lot. He does these things because he's trying to be intimidating and hard, but it's not working. It comes off as boring. And I don't know if it was just me, so I'll have to ask the WWE Universe. I have no idea, but when Kane came out and interrupted Reigns, I swear I heard "Thank you, Kane." A "Thank you, Kane" chant started because Reigns was so boring. And then they brawled, and it was actually a really cool segment, but I think the best part was when the WWE officials came out, and it was Fit Finlay and Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury and IRS, and it was like all these, for lack of a better way to say what these guys are, they were the WCW mid-card from the 90s, and they were, I mean, they came out, and that was the best part, because you're like, oh, hey, there's Fit Finlay, oh my god, it's Jamie Noble, holy crap, cool, you know, and then Reigns destroys Jamie Noble and Fit Finlay, which was, all in all, it was a good segment. It was just, it didn't start out well, because they gave Reigns the mic, and personally, Reigns hasn't really impressed me fully. I mean, I love what he brings in energy. He brings the crowd to their feet. He's very energetic. He gets the crowd pumped up, and I like that. But at the same time, I mean, think about what he does. He comes in and does the same 5 moves. Who else does that? The one person you hate. So, I mean, he comes in there, he does his Superman punch, he does a spear, he does that drop kick, onto the apron thing, it's the same stuff over and over. He doesn't really have a huge repertoire, and people cheer him, but they boo Cena for doing the same thing, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. In my eyes, Rollins and Ambrose are just wrestle circles around that guy, but I do love his energy, so we'll see what happens. The next thing was the first match, and it made me think that one of these days, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Luke Harper, and Eric Rowan need to join forces and have a faction and call themselves the Curtain Jerkers, because that's what they are. They are the Curtain Jerkers. Every show, they open the show. There's a reason why. It's because they never have a bad match. It's so good, and it's never the same thing twice. It's always something different, and it was a great match. The Wyatts went over, which is awesome. The only problem I have with the whole thing is the way they're booking it, with the Wyatts winning every non-title match, but losing the title matches. Now, what that tells me, as someone who can watch it, who doesn't know these people, you know, it's like, hey, I can put myself out and say, if I'm watching this as a new person, I'm thinking, these guys can't win the big one. So essentially, these guys are the Peyton Manning and Tony Romo of the WWE. They can win during the regular season, but when it gets to the championship, they choke. And that's the way they're booking it. So if the Wyatts do not win the tag titles at Battleground, which I think they're going to call that match, they're going to say Usos versus Wyatts, and if the Wyatts don't win, I think it kind of makes the Wyatts look a little weak. By the way, saying Peyton Manning is a choke artist, and I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, that's blasphemy. So, I'm just saying. Either way, good stuff, you know. Great match, and hopefully the Wyatts can win the titles, because that's what I really want in the end. Because the Usos don't have anyone else to beat, so it's just kind of crazy. It's just kind of crazy, you know. But and then the big thing is the Ascension. You know, the Ascension's coming in, and everyone thinks that the Ascension is going to jump right into the title picture, and I think that's a mistake. I don't like that idea. That idea is really, really dumb, because with the Ascension, I mean, think about what they did with Paige. You know, Paige's title run was kind of lackluster because she jumped right into the title picture. Either way, I want the Ascension to come in and have some matches before they get a title. So, let's skip on to the next thing, which was Rusev versus RVD. Rusev takes a jump up in competition, and it was a great match. Rusev is slowly proving what I've believed all along, is that he is a force. He's good. He's agile. He's big. He's powerful. He's awesome. I've always liked Rusev, and he had a great match with RVD, and even went over when RVD tapped to the Accolade, which is crazy. It's like, whoa, he just beat one of the greatest champions of all time. Awesome. Awesome match. There was a few Twitter things that happens, like, where's Jack Swagger? The logic behind that is Jack Swagger's the All-American American. He's not going to get as many cheers in Canada. Not to mention, because of his DUI, I don't think he can wrestle in Canada. I think they got his visa. They got something. I don't know, but it just makes sense. Zeb Coulter was there, but it was just a quick little snippet of an interview during the match, which I wasn't a fan of. Either way, it's really good. Next, we had Ambrose versus Orton. Yet again, another great match. Probably tied for match of the night with Usos and Wyatts. Just off the charts awesome. It was really good. I was highly impressed with everything they brought, and it's one of those things where all these haters of Orton saying, oh, he's so boring, he's so boring. It's like, watch that match, dude. He still has it. Orton still has years left in him, and he can go. He is one of the best guys out there, I think. I like what he does, and Ambrose is just as good, and the ending was even awesome. I mean, Orton went over clean on Ambrose, but it was a cool way of doing it with Ambrose doing his bounce, ricochet off the ropes, and then boom, RKO. That's one thing that Orton has, is he can do that RKO from anywhere, and it's awesome. Like the Money in the Bank when he did it on Cesaro. God, it was great. But I love Orton. I love Ambrose. I want to see those two go at it again, personally. So the next thing we had was Ziggler and Del Rio. I'm not a huge fan of Del Rio. I think he's kind of boring. The problem is that he's really technical, and he's actually very, very good in the ring. It's just that he's so technical that he's boring. He doesn't do anything flashy, and it's just always just beat him down, take that arm out kind of thing. And in this match, Fandango caused Ziggler to lose. That's okay. I mean, that furthers that storyline. I do believe that Fandango is a little beneath Ziggler, but, you know, at least it gives Ziggler a feud. That's what I'm thinking. So, you got Ziggler lost to Del Rio, and that's fine. They're both going to be in the Battle Royal for the Intercontinental Championship. So, that's okay. I like that. Then you had the return of Bret Hart, which was, once again, another good return. He came out, did his promo. It was actually a really good promo about how, you know, so he's back, which is awesome. And then we had Damien Sandow. Damien Sandow came out as Damien Sandhart, which I don't even know what to think. I mean, I liked his Vince McMahon impression and everything, but it just seems so beneath him doing what he's doing right now, and I don't like it. And Bret Hart punched him, which was cool, you know. And then Damien had a match with Sheamus, and it was a really confusing segment. You know, if they wanted to do something for real, you know, they could have had Damien Sandow come out dressed as Shawn Michaels, and then talked about how the Montreal Screwjob was at work. You know, that would have been a little better, but I think it also would have set a few things back. You know, like the Shawn Michaels apologizing to Bret Hart and then hugging and becoming friends. It might have set that back a bit. So I can understand the logic in it. Pretty much, though, end result, Damien Sandow needs to do something different. That's it. Damien Sandow just needs to do something different. And then he got, like, killed by Sheamus, which was I'm not even going to get into. It was a great segment for Bret Hart, bad segment for Damien Sandow. The next was one of the matches that I was actually waiting on. One of the ones that I wanted to see the most, which was Jericho versus The Miz. I am not the hugest fan of The Miz. However, when The Miz is in there with someone who can go, he is awesome. His namesake is the same. He's awesome. And Jericho can go. I was very impressed with this match. It was actually really good. The Miz put on a show. Jericho did his part, and then we got a good promo between Jericho and Bray Wyatt, with the first ever someone cutting off Bray Wyatt, and it was just good. I mean, if this is just even a tiny piece of what we're going to get between the promos in this feud, we're in for a treat. I think I have a feeling that this could easily be feud of the year. Bray Wyatt and Jericho both can bring it in the ring, and they can bring it on the mic. The promos alone in this feud are going to be awesome, and it's the feud that I'm most excited for. And it doesn't even have title implications. This is just a feud to launch Bray Wyatt, and that's great. Next, we had a repeat of Kofi Kingston and Cesaro, where Kofi beat Cesaro again quickly, and Cesaro beat down Kofi again. So it was one of those things where I was just like, man, this is a repeat. This is crazy. And Cesaro needs to move up a little bit, but Big E Langston came out and it made it a little bit better. Big E Langston came and saved him. I guess that's where Big E's moving on to, is Cesaro, but I'm kind of confused because now it's Cesaro versus Kofi and Big E. So Cesaro needs a partner. I don't know who he could possibly get. Either way, it's cool. I love Cesaro, and anything Cesaro's in is gold. And then finally, we had Seth Rollins versus John Cena. Once again, another good match. It was, and like Rollins put on a show. I mean, that dude is, personally, I think he's the most talented out of the Shield. And he put on a show and a half. I mean, it was great. Cena was great. He was great. I mean, it ended in a DQ when Kane came out and interfered. But then Reigns came in for the save. And Reigns, saved the day. And that led to kind of a confusing ending when Cena was raising Reigns' hand and the crowd would cheer, but then Reigns raised Cena's hand and the crowd booed. And it was kind of a weird moment because I was kind of wanting Reigns to raise his hand and then spear him and say, no, there's no friends in this match. It's just, and I'm coming for that title. So, but either way, it was a good ending to Raw, and Raw was just all around great. I mean, there were some bad there were like 2 bad matches, and then the rest of them were just at least good, good if not great. So I think that Raw was better than last week. I mean, it's going to lead to some great stuff. I mean, Battlegrounds already, if it goes the way I think it's going to go, we're already got a great card. I mean, Jericho and Bray. I think we're probably going to get, that Fatal 4-Way match, it looks amazing. Rollins versus Ambrose. I mean, it's happening just like I said it would. It even happened last night. Rollins was going to cash in, and Ambrose stopped him. That's going to continue for months. Ambrose is going to stop Rollins from cashing in for months. That'd be great. So, Battleground's actually looking great, and Battleground is one of those pay-per-views that does not have a good mantra. It's pretty much horrible every year. I think it's actually only happened once, but I can't remember. But this one's actually shaping up to be pretty good. So, looking forward to that. Well, more looking forward to Ambrose versus Rollins and Bray versus Jericho than the actual pay-per-view, but still, looking forward. Okay, last thing I wanted to cover has nothing to do with Raw, I think. Sting, the Enigma, or whatever you want to call him, the icon, tweeted out a simple tweet, just said 7/14/14, which is next Monday. That's all it said, 7/14/14. The general thought is that he will debut on Raw. I'm okay with this. I want to see Sting. I want to see him in a WWE ring, but I don't want to see him wrestle. He just doesn't have it anymore. He has it. He has the it factor. He has the charisma. He just doesn't have it. His last matches in TNA were all pretty terrible. It's almost like he doesn't care anymore. He just, and he's stated many times that the only way he'd come back to the ring is if he got to wrestle Undertaker, and that's not going to happen because Undertaker's gone. He's going to retire. Not to mention, even if he did come back to fight Taker, it wouldn't be a great match, and Undertaker's not going to lose 2 in a row at WrestleMania, so it's just a cluster right now. My thing for Sting is I hope he comes in, does a great promo like he always does, gets announced for the Hall of Fame class of 2015, and then starts hosting some WCW shows on the network. That's what I want from Sting, and maybe come in and do a promo or two, or something like that. Right now, it even wouldn't make any sense for him to come in and be the general manager of Raw, because with the Authority around, and the Authority is going to be around for a while, it just doesn't make sense to have someone running a show with less power than the Authority. You need to have someone who has more power than the Authority. Because if they make a decision, the Authority doesn't like it, logically the Authority can just override it. So it wouldn't make sense. And WWE logic, I mean, they do a lot of things that don't make sense. But that's what I want to see out of Sting. Maybe just have a thing where you show him in the rafters. Just a quick shot of him in the rafters is cool, But have him do a promo, and it'll be a good moment when he returns. But I just don't want to see him in the ring. He's just old. He can't go anymore. I feel bad for him. So we got to have, you know, something with Sting, and if he is coming back, that'll be great. But this could also be him saying he's going somewhere else. I don't think that's so, because I think with WWE has been working on him for months, so I think he's coming to the WWE. But either way, it's been 30 minutes, so I'm going to get off here. And I actually got the whole thing out without the power going out and my dog going crazy, which is cool. So if you have any questions, you can email me, smarkcast@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter, @Darren. I'll put all that in the description. That'll be great. Either way, this has been SmarkCast. I am Darren, Darren if you will, and thanks for watching.